It's been a couple months now. I want to say that the last episode was in like April maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Legacy Dialogues. I try to bring you episodes. Back in 2025, we had multiple episodes every month. Things got busy. I say, you know what, let's break it down. We'll maybe do one a month. And then a couple months would pass by. Okay, let me do another one. And just ultimately, I say, you know what, let's just, whenever it feels right, whenever it happens, we'll do an episode. And then when I go back and decide, you know what, let me put this in the actual podcast format, I can place it on one of the podcast platforms, and we'll have it to where they're coming out on a regular basis. But today we have before us a young woman that I had a conversation with. It's been a few months now. I had a conversation with her. I learned so many different aspects of who she is outside of what I already knew about her. And I told her then that, for one, she's sitting on a gold mine when it comes to all the skills that she has to offer. But for two, it's just I connected with her because I'm similar. I occupy so many different spaces, but most people only know about one or a few of those different spaces. And just taking all into consideration what she has to offer, I felt she was fitting for Legacy Dialogues because doing to a certain level of efficiency and excellence, anything that she's doing right now can allow her to leave a legacy that lasts for generations to come. So I could sit here and talk about her all day long. I'm ready to talk with her. So without further ado, Veronica, how's it going?
Good and you.
I am well. I'm well. So excited about our conversation today for a multitude of reasons. And as a preference, I know that you are a mom. You have individuals that depend on you, even right now in this moment. Um, I'm a father. I have a daughter that is still at home. My son is mostly out of the house now. He's grown. Um, but in saying that, so many times I'll be doing a session, my daughter will peek in the door and like, hey dad, I'm like, you know how it is. So just for the audience, y'all already know how we roll. Look, there we go. Y'all know how we roll. Like this is life. This is the life of an entrepreneur when you work from home and you have the luxury of being able to put in and spend time with your loved ones
Maybe.
the way that we've been able to create for ourselves. Like this is part of it. So I just wanted to put that out there first and foremost. So let's just get it rocking and rolling. If you don't mind, kind of mention to the people how you and I met, and then let's go back to like who is Veronica? Where you come from? Where you reside? Where you going? So take the mic.
Woo! It's a lot. It's a lot. So I was born Veronica Marie Quiles. I'm still Veronica Marie Quiles. Um, that name definitely was built. Um, it was built on everything that I've gone through. But the way we met was I have a business partner, Tammy Billings, and she had gotten a hold of Chris Holder, and we went into looking at finances, investing, and didn't realize I was getting a team. I was getting a team, and something clicked, and I was like, you know what? I need to get a hold of Brian. Something's not right. I feel like I have so much that I've built over the last 8 years, and something was missing. Like I didn't know what step was next. How do I put it all together? And thankfully, we found Brian Street. But that's kind of the basics of how I met you, and we've linked together for the last couple months, and I am truly grateful. Truly grateful for the connection that we have, the community you've given us, and I feel like I've built more in the last few months than I feel like I have built in the last 8 years.
Mm,
So,
well,
like I said earlier, Veronica Quiles is the name, and I built it. I built it. Thankfully, my dad gave me that last name, and with his success and multiple success with the name, we go as far back as many wars for military as well. So that's why I say I built me.
I love it. I love it. So before I let you go any further, like a lot of people don't really think before they answer. that question to the degree that you thought.
Mhm.
And many of us, we just walk around with a label that is our name, and we don't
Mhm.
really put a lot of thought behind it, behind how we got it, but also what we've done with it. But that's something
Mhm.
that you pay attention to, and I love that. Like, what gives you that degree of intentionality whenever it comes to speaking about who you are, your name? Like, where does that come from?
Um, Growing up, my dad always said your last name is important. Whether you marry or not, carrying your last name is going to give you so much in the future because you are Hispanic and you carry a very strong name. So when I was married before, I never dropped my name. Um, my previous marriages, I just hyphenated it, but I didn't feel like I became that hyphenated name. I always strictly was Veronica Marie Quiles or Veronica Quiles. So through the years of building who I am today, it really became a bit stronger year by year after I had my daughter, which is my
Mm.
second child. And that's when I was like, I want more. I want more. But what really, really got me was before I had her,
Oh, really?
because I did have a hyphenated name while I was in service, and things happen. Life happens. Marriages don't work. And in the middle of deciding that I wanted a divorce back then, I removed the hyphenated name and kept Quiles. And it confused a lot of people because they were like, I don't know if I should call you O'Neill or call you Quiles because we go by last names. I said, nope, I'm still Veronica. So becoming who I am today with that name, it really bases off of my dad. And honestly, my son, my oldest one, has his name too. So it's just crazy how I feel like when I look back on how I became who I am today, a lot of it came from the learning the lessons growing up, but also how my dad was so headstrong about carrying our name. And
So let's pause right there. You keep referencing your dad. You referenced the fact that you're Hispanic. So let's take it back. Where was Veronica born and raised, and like what was that childhood like under that father?
oh, so I had, and I feel like this all the time, I had overly protective parents. But I was actually born in Waterbury, Connecticut back in 1987. And um,
80s babies.
we lived there until I was in third grade. I was in third grade, but the memory started there. And then from there, we shifted to Bristol, Connecticut, where I still have friends that I went to elementary school and middle school and high school with that actually live here where I am now. Um, from there, I moved to Agawam, Massachusetts. So the shift in life and the moves were important. They're important to who I am today and how I became who I am today. And we'll get into that. But I think a lot of the moves was teaching me lessons on how to shift when things just are not in the right position of where our lives should be. Um, when we moved from Waterbury to Bristol, my mom was already working at Bristol Hospital, if I'm not mistaken. Now that I'm thinking back to it, and that brought her closer to her job. We had a three-family home in Connecticut that my dad owned, and he sold it, and he built his first home. Um, it really was a difference, like it from going from a three-bedroom to just a single-family home with a yard. But the memories we have from that Waterbury address is really where it all started. Um, it's it's a tough one. I don't want to spill too much because I have something in the works and it's gonna bring it out. But
Yeah, don't tell us too
it's
much.
so hard. But the shift, the constant moving, I think is also part of the reason why I joined the military when I did. But having the parents I have and living in Waterbury for, I feel like it was a short period of time because third grade is not really far into your life. But there's so many things that happened in that time frame that built little old Veronica. And the shift going into the end of elementary school into middle school and even high school, moving into a different town really shifted who I was becoming. But I didn't see it back then. I didn't see it back then, but I can see it now. And that's why I feel like I do what I do, is because the constant moving, the constant adjusting, and learning to build a stronger you is kind of where my heart is.
I love it. So, to a certain degree, the moving and the adjustments, and like you said, building a new you and building you into who you are,
Mm-hmm.
it to a certain degree, it's like ongoing resilience development. It seems so. It's like it's
Yeah.
creating you to be able to survive and or thrive in almost any environment. Is kind of what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
So if
gotcha,
we go
gotcha.
back to the two who brought me into this world,
Mm-hmm.
um, dad and mom were both the youngest in their family.
Okay.
Um, and very different families. Like the way I see one side versus the other, like there's some similarities, and it's really funny because I'm related on both sides, due to marriage. But it's just listening to their stories has brought them to be who they are today. And they're very strong people. They're headstrong, they're very strong people. And sometimes I say it that if you ever meet my parents, you're going to ask where I came from because they are very strict, they are very headstrong, they are very protective over not only their children, but their grandchildren. And they will drop things on a dime to make sure that they are there for their children and their grandchildren, which I think is the reason why I am like that. But at the same time, there's things that I do that I'm like, am I done yet? No, I'm not. I'm not. And my dad says it. He was like, there's no point in going back to school. And I was like, why? He was like, because it's expensive. I said, but I don't gotta pay for it. That's his mindset, is why pay for something if you don't need it? Where my mom, let's go into how my mom got to where she is now, and she's retired. And she was a stay-at-home mom until we all went to school. And there's three of us. I'm the middle of three. And my dad never had a boy till I had a boy. So my mom was in the medical field her entire life. And she kind of showed me that caring person, showing me that the health of somebody is major for their lifespan. And she was a CNA. She did in home care. We went with her. Those people became family to us. And from there, she went off to, if I'm not mistaken, we were in Bristol at the time, and she worked at the hospital. Um, but the way she went through things, and my mom never got a college degree. Um, my dad has his, but I'm just like, Dad, you never used yours. Mom got her CNA and just built from there. And I think that's the reason why I've grown the businesses I have, is watching her start from something that seems so small just to most people to building something that she retired from the VA. And to watch her grow with three girls and grandchildren is a shocker sometimes to people. And they're like, well, the mindset, and sadly I say that, is people think that they think they're better than people. And I'm like, no, if you truly sat down with them, you would understand that what they built and what you see is what you want to see. They wanted you to come with them, but you chose not to. And that's where I feel sometimes I outgrow tables so fast and I have my toes still in that pool. Why? Because there's still something within that table that I can pull them from there and move them up. And that is the growth that I saw in my mom. And with my dad, I saw a lot. I saw a lot. And I think that's why I went into like mentally writing things when I was younger. But my dad, like I said, he's the youngest. My grandparents came from Puerto Rico when he was 12. And my grandmother didn't speak a lick of English. I'm surprised she could understand a word we said. But the relationship we had with our grandparents that have now passed is very different. And there was things that I did as an adult to kind of help my parents too. So my dad, like I said, he has a college degree in accounting. Never used it. Never used it. He taught us how to do taxes ourselves, but he never used it. And it's like, okay, but he worked for Pratt and Whitney until I think I was like 12 or 13. But the thing about that job was it took away from the family. And it wasn't him running his own business, he was working for somebody else. And the story I remember was we were on vacation, and I can't tell you where we were, but he got a call from work and we had to fly home because they needed him back at work, and they would do this all the time. So my dad applied for the FAA, and one day they called the house. My dad was at work. My mom picked up the phone, and she will tell the story a million times over. She picked up the phone and she asked who it was, and they said, "Hey, is Carlos Quiles home?" And she said, "No, he's not at the moment. May I ask who's speaking?" Because this is how we answer phones. And they told her, and she said, "You know what? You don't need his answer. The answer is yes. The answer is yes." Um, because my mom comes from such a big family that she really wanted everybody close. She didn't want stuff to interrupt family time. And even though I do work around my kids, I do stop what I'm doing when I have to because they need me.
Yes.
And that comes from learning that my mom made a decision for my dad to start working for the FAA when he wasn't home. But it was the best decision she had made at that time for him. And I don't think he would turn back time and change it. So for them to be a team the way they are, um, and every marriage has their own issues, um, but the ups and downs is what created them to be who they are today, and build us as their three girls to continue to build and still keep our last name.
Man, I love it. So I'm thinking over here, like I'm looking at, I'm watching, I'm listening to you tell me the story, and like I'm visualizing it in my mind. You growing up, you witnessing all this, you internalizing all this, and at a very young age, you just like you absorb it. It's
Mm-hmm.
vicarious learning. You're learning simply by being around it. So as you start to age and you're in your teenage years and you're starting to decide what you want to do with your life, and you alluded to it a little bit, why you went into the service, but kind of talk us through you in high school and making that decision, making those decisions of this is what I want that next stage of life to look like for me, entering into early adulthood. Like, what can you tell us about that stage and how your upbringing, your parents impacted that?
That one's a tough story. Um, so high school, the shift, I moved to Agawam, Massachusetts in the middle of my junior year. So I had all of my friends still living in Connecticut. There was an event that happened to me that caused the push to move. And at my age, I'm no longer angry about what happened. I am forgiving, and karma is karma. There's nothing I can do about it. But for those who true like have met me and know what that is we don't bring it up. We don't bring it up. Why? Because the past should always stay in the past. It should be a lesson that we learn and we continue forward. But that event actually is what caused us to shift from Connecticut to Massachusetts. And I didn't truly know what I wanted to do with my life. Um, that one was a tough one because during those events, I still had my grandfather pass away. And that was a major part of my life. And I had my grandfather pass away, and this event happened, and I feel like sometimes the family thought that because of the loss of my grandfather, that's what caused a major shift in my mindset. And I did end up having depression and anxiety at the time, which I still have to this day, but we will go through that later. And it's like the chain of events didn't really trigger me to what I wanted to do with my life. When I graduated high school, or right before I graduated high school, I was on the debate. Do I go to school for accounting? Do I go to cosmetology school? And at the time, my dad really said, cosmetology seems like a hobby. And back then, it was $11,000 to go to school just for cosmetology. And he was like, that's a lot of money. But my dad was the dad that, as long as you stayed home and went to college, you had a roof over your head and we were still feeding you. But you did have to maintain the vehicle that they bought us, the insurance, the gas, all of that, and you still had to go to work. And I did. I did. I worked 2 jobs while I was in high school. Um, I worked at Sears. Thanks for aging myself. And I I worked with MCS, which worked with disabled children, and I feel like that is part of my future because God gave me my own disabled child. But I didn't know what I wanted to be out of high school. But I did start college. I started college for accounting, and I moved out. And those chains of events created my oldest child. Um, and it wasn't until my oldest was 5 that I said, I no longer can keep bouncing from one job to another to sustain our lives and make sure that my child is taken care of. At the time, I was married to my first husband, and we were in Killeen, Texas. And don't get me wrong, I lived my life. I enjoyed what I could, but I still didn't know who I would become. I was still finding me while having a baby. So I think because of my son, my oldest, is the reason why I pushed and said, I'm going to join the military because I need stability. I was 25 when I signed my contract to join the military back in 2013. So I think that is where I began to think what I wanted my future to be and who I wanted to become. But
Yeah.
that is where I learned to be Veronica Quiles.
Well, I love it. And so often we hear people's stories after we see certain successes in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and we never really know the entirety of their story. I was mentioning this morning, using the whole cliche saying, the what is it? Comparison is a thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas oftentimes you see someone else seeming like they're winning, but you have no idea that they just lost someone close to them. You have no idea that they were just robbed. Like you have no idea what they're actually going through because they're showing you what they want you to see. They're showing you what they want to portray as the best version of themselves. And it takes individuals to come into smaller niche communities to be able to share openly of what's really going on. So, I'm thankful that you have shared with myself and some individuals in our close network some of the things that you've been through. But like that's why I like to do these sessions, because it makes people think, wow, like, so seems like she's really been through something. All I knew was what I saw on social media. Man, I wonder how I can learn more about her. And we'll get to that before we end. But thank you for sharing that aspect. So take us to getting into the military, and like what the journey has looked like for you, and how that may have impacted where you are today as far as getting into owning your own business, being an entrepreneur, and a couple of different dynamics. Kind of walk us through that stage of life.
So military wise, when um, I joined enlisted. I did have college degrees, or I had college credits. I didn't have a college degree, but I didn't use them to get a higher rank. I didn't want to start higher up. Why? Because I wanted to start from the very beginning.
Mm.
I wanted to start as a fuzzy. And mind you, I was 25 years old. I'm dealing with 17, 18-year-olds in basic training and going into work. So it was a tough adjustment. And I don't think it was more so an adjustment for me. I think it was that I had to learn a structure around my age and how to handle people who were younger than me, because I had already partly lived my life before I joined.
Hmm.
And don't get me wrong, there was ups and downs through it all. Basic training was tough. I had never camped in my life. I don't do bugs. I don't do rodents. Um, I definitely don't sleep outside in the snow. But it's I feel like having that experience definitely changed a lot of things in my life. Um, my 26th birthday was in the middle of basic training, and they usually what we call smoke you, which is you're going to do push-ups for days. You're going to be doing push-ups for days. You're going to be running, but it just happened to be that we were in a field training at that time in what we call foxholes.
Mm.
And I was stuck in the frozen water in those. It was cold. But the experience definitely changed a lot of things. It changed a lot of things. It's like you grew up a certain way and you're deprived of those things in that 2.5 months that you're there. You're deprived of cell phone usage. Um, the only way to get away from who you're around 24/7 is to go to church on Sunday morning. Um, but basic training, or I should say graduation, um, is what truly shifted me. Um, and I thought it was going to hurt me as a person. It did. Um, it definitely did, because through basic training, I was one of those that was like, oh, I know who's coming for graduation. These people are going to be here. Certain people were going to be there. And that was my mindset. And one of those people is no longer with us.
Mm.
Um, so the events of loss is what gave me my strength through my life. Um, but my mom had already known I had a hip injury while I was in basic training, and she did not tell me. I didn't find out till after I had graduated. Um, but I don't want to get too much into that because there's
It's
something
gonna
in
be
there with
it's
that
gonna be
too.
another resource.
Yes, there is.
Nice.
But I I got to my unit and I was like the only one that knew how to put a whole radio system together, and we laugh about it now. Because I know other people here in Colorado that are in communications, and they're like, it's not that hard. And I was like, yeah, because the cable only goes in one hole. But to think back at the lessons I had to learn and the lessons I had to teach on real life experience is like they want you to basically become what they want you to be while you're in the military. And I was not that person.
Mm.
I was not. I was headstrong. I knew right from wrong. I also was one of those that was like, if you don't get this job done that you went to school for, we have a problem. And I actually met my now husband while I was in the service. We were not together, we were actually married to other people. But we had been friends for so long. But for him, if you ever get to speak to him, he will tell you she was mean. She was mean. Nobody wants. I was like, I don't want anybody to talk to me. Like, you're not supposed to wear your hat down here. I did. I don't want you to see my face. Don't talk to me. Just keep going. And that was who I was, because I was like determined to get things done. Because I wasn't just Veronica Quiles anymore. I was specialist Quiles, and I was taking on things that my rank usually wouldn't do. Um, and I worked with our companies, I worked with our battalion, I worked with brigade, and I worked with post. And as a married woman at the time, I was running BOSS, which is a single soldiers program. I was running battalion meetings, and I'm like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? But the losses while I was in the military is what truly, I feel like, gained my anger. Gained my anger because people didn't understand. What truly was a piece of my heart, they didn't understand. So losses, like I say, has gained the strength that I have today. I actually lost my mother-in-law while I was active duty.
Mm.
And I was like, we have to set up service. We have to do this. We have to do that. I'm not coming back until this is done. And I was headstrong. I was headstrong. But what I learned in the military was structure through the chaos. And I say that because if you've ever been in the military or ever spent a day with them, nothing's organized. You have a
Mm.
schedule, but it's sit there and wait.
Really?
Uh, it really is. It drives me nuts. But then you have the, if you're on time, you're late. If you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. And I still stick to that. I still stick to that. Having the structure I have, it's not chaos. To somebody else, it would be. But to me, scheduling things out has controlled everything we have going on. And if something were to come up as a hiccup, depending on what it is, it does frustrate me. But the military has given me more growth, more understanding. It gave me a lot of pain
Hmm.
towards the end. And I didn't get to become the officer I wanted to become. Um, I deployed too soon after surgery. And when I came home, I was out. So it was a big adjustment. I'm still adjusting 10 years later to not so much military life, even though we still live it. I just don't actively live it.
Yeah.
But that is really, I think, where I started to know semi where I was going with my life. But like I
Exactly.
said, losses is what caused me to become who I am and the strength I have today.
That's deep. That's profound, and it makes me think. And I'm sure I've mentioned this to you. This book that I'm looking to finally release my birthday this year. For those who are listening, surprise. Um, it's called Pain. Subtitle: Pain is inevitable. What you do with it is what matters, or something along
Mm-hmm.
those lines. Like, we all go through it, but you got to figure
Mm-hmm.
out, how can I use this for my benefit and not to my detriment. And I love that it seems like you have learned how to do that. Um, and just looking at the military background. Now, I have people ask me all the time, like, are you military? Like, were you in the military? And they'll always say, it's your demeanor, how you carry yourself, plus the bald head, like it helps also. Um, and I always tell them, like, no, but in high school, I took 2 semesters of JROTC. And I don't care what anybody says, The drill sergeants, the master, one of them just passed away like a month or so, a couple months back. Sergeant Major Jones, like Sergeant Major Jones and Sergeant Major Marshall, they were so strict. They were so by the book. I'm talking about, they laid into us, but it was with pure love.
Hmm.
Like it was so much love, but they made sure that we were being formed into men, not boys just going through some training. No, they were forming us into men. And I learned so much of how to carry myself during those 2 semesters that I've carried with me throughout my entire life. So when I see people, I know people who are in the military, I kind of watch how they move in life across the board. I'm like, yep, that shows. That shows. So in saying that, let's transition to the businesswoman side of things, entrepreneurship, running things and being in control of things, even when sometimes it makes you want to pull your hair out. Let's transition into that stage. Like, what was the beginning of owning your own business? I know you have some real estate doings as well. Like, what was the initiation of that transition like, and how much of your success and or headache could you contribute to your background from your parents and also in the military?
So business wise, I had worked after I got out of the military. I had worked with somebody that did Roths, and I did that for a little while. But he ended up moving, I think, to North Carolina. And I still speak to him to this day, him and his wife. And he's keeping up with us in the family. It's great. But it was after I had my daughter. Um, the traumatic delivery, the almost loss of my daughter. Um, of course, I went into depression while we were in the NICU. Those are the things that truly got me into the next steps of business. I was actually working with my daughter's father's cousin. He had a marketing company, and I did their social media marketing. So that's how I started to learn how to run my social media, how to do everything I do, and how I got the algorithm I have today.
Mm.
This is actually not the Facebook I had back then when I was doing that, but that one was hacked back in 2021.
Mm.
Um, God, I wish I could have it back. 99% of my clients were on there, but
Wow.
this taught me how to continue building that. Um, After I had my daughter, they told me that I had one choice. I had one choice because if I wanted to have more kids, it was never going to happen.
Mm.
Um, because of how bad her delivery was, they gave a 6% chance for her to live. She is now 8 years old and thriving. She is running around and talking my ear off and trying to keep me out of my house. But everything I went through with her and the fact that I ended up with an infection that caused all of this. But it wasn't my fault. It was due to malpractice that
Mm.
I tried to fight, but we couldn't do anything. But with the strength coming from that is what my next step was, and that was going into health and wellness.
Mm.
Um, I had, when I lived in San Antonio, and that's a whole nother story. Um, I had met a couple of friends and they had gotten into health and wellness, and I kept posting about the struggles of being in front of the camera. And literally, if you go back to any of my social media, all you'll see is headshots. And I was not confident in who I was. I was feeling down. I was wanting to lose the weight. And she reached out. I was in the middle of a battle with trying to get emergency custody of my daughter's two sisters. And that's when she called me and she was like, I've got a deal for you. I really think this is going to help you. And I was like, doctors have no clue what they're going to do. And they told me, they were like, because of the delivery you had, we lost you on that table and had to bring you back. You may never have kids again. And I was like, I was losing it because, of course, I only had the two now. I didn't know if my daughter was going to survive, and they're 10 years apart. So I had to have my tubes tied. I was like, that's the only option. And I always wanted more kids. I really did. And we can get further down the line later on about it. But the good news is I do have another baby. And he's a little over a year old now. But I had to trust in God, the universe, and everything else. I couldn't believe what the doctors were telling me, or else I would have never tried again. And I wouldn't have lost the weight. I was 250 pounds after I gave birth to my daughter. And my health, my levels, everything was off, and health and wellness was the key. So that's where it all started, was if this works for me, will it work for somebody else? And it was an opportunity to learn what products work for me or what could work for somebody else. And that's where I started running the business with Lavelle Thrive. And that's where that started. I was about 5 or 6 months in from doing that, and I had my tubes tied, due to what they told me. That's what I believed them, and I didn't have a choice. And I dealt with the depression after that. But I was determined to lose the weight. And I was determined to get healthy again, because I was like, I've always been the super tiny person. I don't need to be this big. Carrying this weight is destroying my hips and back. Militaries, all the pain was there.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to look back. I didn't want to look back at my military time and what caused the pains I was having. I wanted to learn how to fix it. That's how I got into that. And then, of course, after having your tubes tied, hormones are everywhere. You're really not knowing what your life is going to be like and relationships are going to be like. It did take a big toll between being pregnant with my daughter, going through all of that, losing the weight, that sexual education wasn't something we truly was taught. So I knew somebody else that was in the line of what we call pure romance. And I started that.
Mhm.
And with impure romance, I got my sexual education. And I'm like, this makes sense. This all makes sense. Something's got to give. Like, and I was running both. I knew I was the mom that couldn't do shows, but I knew I was the mom that can sell the crap out of something, that could teach something to somebody that feels like their relationship was falling apart. But it really wasn't because you guys couldn't communicate. It was that you guys didn't understand each other's bodies. And that's what caused me to do that. In the meantime, I started an accessory business. And it's still there in the background. That just takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But the accessory business built in running the two businesses I already had truly showed me what I could do. And I think it's more so because my dad owned a jewelry business when we were little. And I don't know what it is, but my dad was a lot of that strength to teach me different things as I grew up, because when I look back, the things he fought through, I feel like I fought stronger for him. And that's who built the businesswoman. He doesn't just have one, he has three. So I think we all just kind of kept an eye on what he did when we were younger to make more money to support his family, because the words out of his mouth and the words that come out of my mouth all the time is, I want more for my kids than I had. I want to leave them more than what I should have my parents leave us. No, my parents should leave to their grandchildren. I should be leaving to my children and my grandchildren. I should be taking care of them when something happens. That person was not truly built till I built my house in Florida. So going from adding business to business to business is crazy. And some people will be like, Veronica, are you done yet? Are you done? My husband still says it. Are you done? When is enough enough? And my mindset is when my business itself makes as much as we make per year, that I don't have to touch the money that we make normally, we will be set. That is my mindset. Why? Because I want to make sure that that money that we make all the time goes to investments. Because those investments are now going to build for my children. Those are going to build for my grandchildren. Those are going to leave behind everything I've built. So with that, I did not go into credit until last year.
See,
I
so
did
let's take
not
a
go.
let's take a quick pause. I'm gonna run and grab my charger. Its battery is getting low, but that's a good segue to kind of close out this last 15, 20 minutes or so, to really show people where you are today. So before or as you transition into this segment, I want you to lean back and make sure you show it off nice and proudly.
Yeah.
That's the brand, one of many aspects of it. And we'll be sharing something a little bit later for you guys to learn more about what she's doing in that stage. So you go ahead and continue. I'm going to grab my charger, but I'll be listening in.
Yeah. So credit. Whew. Not something I was taught, but it was built for me.
Hmm.
Not everybody has that opportunity. And to learn that you don't have to feel like you're denied and constantly denied for the rest of your life is exactly where I want to show you that we are going to get you from denial to approval. But that also comes with learning lessons, changing your mindset, and living your lifestyle. So,
No, repeat that. Repeat those words again. I don't think everybody caught that.
the lessons we need to learn, changing your mindset. Now I completely forgot. Learning our lessons, changing our mindsets, and living your lifestyle is
Yes.
is a lot. It's a lot to think when you think about those words. You're like, where are we going? Where are we going, and why? Because denials are just disgusting. I just wouldn't want another denial in my life. And don't get me wrong, we still get them. We
Hmm.
still get them. As business owners, there are so many out there that they're running off their own money. They're not getting approved. They're not building the legacy they want. They're falling into debt. And I didn't need credit repair. I didn't. Um, but when I look back at me going into building a house, and again, we go back to my dad, and the words that come out of his mouth is, you're here with your daughter. You have a year to decide to get an apartment or get a house or build one.
Mm.
That's a lot for a single mom. That's a lot for a single mom. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And the events to come after that really was like, oh my God, I've got to build. I don't want to buy somebody else's problem, but where are we going? So it wasn't that I had horrible credit. It was past experiences, collections, hard inquiries. All I needed was 20 points.
Yeah.
And what I thought was a lender helping me was really a lender teaching me a lesson I probably should have learned a lot sooner than I did. That's the reason why I went into credit. Because I didn't want somebody to feel like a lender was giving them their best interest and really they were just trying to take them for their money.
Yep. That's
Credit had become my life as I was in the middle of contractions with my youngest. I clicked the button in the middle of contractions. I
Are you
was on
serious?
Zooms in the middle of contractions. It was the last month of my pregnancy with KJ, and I was in Zoom after Zoom. I was breathing through them. And if you ever meet the big team, if you ever talk to them, they will tell you that KJ is the team baby. Like I literally clicked the button to start this, and it wasn't that I needed credit, it was that I needed to help somebody else. I needed to learn more than what I had already learned. And the thing about me is I never stop learning. I want to continue learning so I can teach somebody else, because whatever I did wrong, I don't want you to do wrong. I want you to know before you get there.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for Tammy Billings bugging me for 2 years and said, Veronica, now's the time. Now's the time, in the middle of me being the last month of my pregnancy, thinking he was coming sooner than he did, and I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm thankful for the team that I joined, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to build other people's futures and to see that credit doesn't have to destroy your life. But there was a second portion to that I still hold on to till this day, and that's your trust and will and power of attorney. Most people sit here and they say, well, we don't need that. Why not? Oh, nothing's going to happen to me. And then something happens. I take trust and will as a major part of my life because we do own homes, we own vehicles, and we have children. My dad is on his 14th house, and his will and trust was another reason why I pushed. And I tell people all the time, we can go from credit to close, but without a will and trust, you've got nothing but a bill. So growing as the person I have become, and still growing to this day to become even more than what I plan to be, all of the little things that have caused me to get to where I am now is the reason why I don't give up. I do take breaks. I do have a mindset that has to change at times, but when you're living in negativity, we change it to positivity. When we're living into denials, we need to fix that too. Lessons that I've had to learn, I don't want somebody else to be taught. So that is actually what has created the book.
Mm.
And I feel like my books are going to be backwards. But this is actually a start to why I got into credit, why I got into wills and trusts, and why I keep pushing for more. Investment Solutions wasn't just Investment Solutions, it was Invest. It was originally Invest and created by my husband. And with everything I have, the gold mine you say I have, I didn't know where Invest was going to go. And one day my husband said, hey, I canceled my LLC for Invest, so we can't use it anymore.
Mm.
I had already used it for everything. I had already boosted everything. I had already built the company with it. And September last year, I said, okay, Investment Solutions became who we are today. Invest in Solutions is not just a credit and financial credit solution at all. It's a life coach to back you up and show you why you did this and why we should not do this again. How do we fix your mindset? Why are we still getting denied? Why are we just wildly spending money? Being a military spouse and had one income most of her life was something that really pushed me to help those in the service. And I am stationed right in Fort Carson, Colorado. And that is where I want to be, to help those people. And I don't just help people here, I help them nationwide. And to be able to meet different people in the different parts of their life and to teach them that it doesn't matter what age you're at, credit can still be a legacy that is left behind. I didn't have an 850 or 750 credit score at the age of 18 for no reason. I had parents that created accounts that we put money in every week to show us how to function with money, how to put money into a savings account, how to have a credit union, and not realizing that I was going to have a 750 credit score at the age of 18.
Sheesh.
But I didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
I messed it up. Do I want somebody else to learn that lesson?
Not the way you did.
Not the way I did. But the lessons that I had to learn, and those kicked me in the butt while I was in the service, because I had to do debt consolidation, and I learned that we are not doing that either. I had to learn that if I paid off collections, that was only going to give me 20 points. We will not be doing that either. And there's just so much that people say, oh, that's a myth. No, it's true. So now is the time to learn from your mistakes and learn from mine, and move forward to approvals and a financially stable future.
I love it. Um, so I'm thinking here, you referenced the book a few times. Um, you spoke on why you got into the space. You didn't necessarily need the help per se for yourself, but you saw how so many others needed the help. Um, Now, I was like in the middle, whereas when I first got involved in the same space, I did need the help, but
Mm-hmm.
also I had so much I could bring to the table to help others while I was receiving the help as
Mm-hmm.
well. So I kind of see like an overlap. You could benefit from it, not from the pure sake of fixing your credit, but all the other aspects and how you could help others, and that in turn could help you. So, where can, as we get ready to wind up, where can people see more of what you're doing? Where can they get their hands on this book that you mentioned? And like, what's next in the pipeline?
So to reach me, you'll find me at Veronica Marie on FaceTime. I mean, on Facebook. Wow, I'm losing my mind. Um, Instagram will be Veronica Marie 87. Um, if you're looking for the business page, it is NVST Credit Specialist on Facebook. Um, but like I said, we do more than just credit and finances. Um, the book, the book is with Re-Engineering Minds, and I am happy that you have allowed me to put that out there and really push for that. And that really, it's still like a shocker to me. It's still a shocker to me that this book is complete, and you can get your hands on it. You can learn a little bit about me and a little bit about the experiences I've gone through to get to where I am today. But you don't have to go through those lessons that I had gone through.
Yeah,
So the book is linked below.
yeah, and
And
that's why, and I've seen that, and the two of us, we do so much of what we do so that others don't have to necessarily go through what we had to go through to get to where we currently are. Like I admire that about your character. And and the crazy thing is, like, they have this whole saying, this is only the tip of the iceberg. Like, we can't even see tip yet. Like, you're just now really getting to where people are going to be able to benefit tremendously from what you have to offer. Um, and it's just now starting. It's just now getting started. So throw any teasers out regarding what's in the pipeline. We don't have to give the full info, but some things that are coming up down the line.
So currently, with the book that's out, we are looking at doing some courses and some recorded courses so that if you can't do a one-on-one, you have that. Because most one-on-ones are going to be virtual anyway, because I do work around my kids. Whatever makes it easier for people. I don't want to put you in a bind, and I don't want to feel like I'm taking up too much time. So you can actually listen into the courses when those are complete, and you can learn from that. And then you're able to reach out to me as well when you have any questions, any help, all of that. A lot of my clients, they shoot me a text if I don't answer right away. It's probably because I'm at Taekwondo. But I do my best to stay on top of it when I can just get a few words out to them, and it's great. But with loss comes great accomplishments. And with losing my husband's grandfather recently, um, my words were a bit lost. They were lost. I was having horrible migraines. And I was like, something's got to give. What is going on? And I've always been the writer. I've always been the writer. I never knew I was going to write a book. People have told me to write a book. And I still hold those words in my head. And I want to say it was back in 2021. Angel Huertas. Whew. I met him through social media. He actually writes a book. And I read it in 2 days. And something about him and his wife connected us. And he said, Veronica, you've got a story. I was like, and that's when I started writing. I really started writing, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And I didn't want too many names involved. So I just stopped. But I felt that again recently, that I was like, I'm losing words. I'm losing words. I'm losing that motion to like just type. And with the loss of his grandfather, he was a father figure to him. And for the little bit of time that I've been with the family, it was like I gained a grandfather I didn't have anymore. And in my heart, I had to tell him myself, because I found out first. And those things affect you, but I'm wired differently, is what I say. Being wired differently for me is I take those passings and I create strength. And with the strength comes words. And that's how we're getting into something new. I went to the viewing, and the man I saw didn't look like the man I had seen a year before. But my words came back. And I went back into thinking when my grandparents passed away and all of that. And I said, what lessons did those things teach me, and what strength did I get from them? The strength that I have now is due to the passing of multiple different people. And with that being said, once these courses are complete, it may come out sooner, who knows? There is another book on its way. And I don't think I'm done. I think that there's more to come in helping in the grieving. and more to come to teach others how grief and strength can work together. So,
Yeah.
lessons, life, and growth will be coming soon, but let's focus on no more denials and getting approved.
Yes. That's it. No more denials and getting approved. I'm sure many of us can relate. Many, many, many. Literally, I had a situation within the last 48 hours of assumption of denial, taking some actions, and then being approved, and it felt so good. It felt
It
so
does.
good. So, Veronica, I appreciate your time today. I'm sure the guests really appreciate the insights that you've given, some of your story that you've shared for those who know you, but thought they knew you, but now they know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Uh, and everyone, make sure that whatever platform you're viewing on, if you're viewing on YouTube, I'll be adding the description, hopefully within the next 24 hours, and I'll include all of her contact info. I'll include a link to the book, how you can access anything that she has to offer, how you can get access to her services. And we'll do the same underneath the posts on Facebook. So, any closing words you want to leave the people with? I think you just, I mean, no more denials. It's one, but any last final words?
When you feel weak, comes. All right, we're connected. When you feel weak, the strength comes from the weirdest places.
Yeah,
Grief has gotten me to who I am today. Pain has gotten me from where I am today. So don't feel like your past is what controls your future, because today I'm not who I was 10 years ago.
that's it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you again, Veronica. It's been a pleasure of mine. We're gonna come back probably within the next couple of months and talk about um, more of your journey that has happened since. We'll talk about any new products or books or whatever that you release, and maybe have like a little story time. But with
Sounds
that being
good.
said, I'm gonna put you backstage real quick. I'll close out with my audience, and then I'll come and close out with you, and that'll be a wrap for us.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you again.
Thanks.
All right. So that was another episode, Legacy Dialogues with Veronica Quiles. So I learned some things today that I wasn't aware of. Some things I was a little aware of, but I'm just looking forward to digging into each of her books as they come out. Learn more about her, but also learn more about what I can put in place to not only continue to help my financial future moving forward, but also that I can utilize to help my kids. And then whenever the day does happen, it better not happen anytime soon. When my kids, have them in a position to help their kids in the same way. So I appreciate all you guys for joining. Everyone who engaged in the chat, appreciate you as well. We'll be back sooner than later. I have a couple individuals who are in line to do a session with us. So definitely make sure that you stay updated. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, make sure you go over and give us a subscribe so that you can get notified whenever we do have new episodes that are popping up. Off that note, we're out. Much love. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one.